So I know results are not quite there, but when Amorim is actually breaking down, we're getting closer, it's looking better, I'm getting that feeling. These statistics that I'm reading out to you right now are telling me he's not far away from having the team that he wants. All they've got to do now is score more goals. All they've got to do now is stop making mistakes defensively, and you'll have yourself an opportunity. The squad's good enough, Adam. It's really good. It's talented. I know they've had a goalkeeping issue, but it's a talented squad.
How important, Ian, is the timing of this game? It is difficult after the international break. Both teams have had players, all over the world playing in these international games. How do you think that will affect what type of game we see?
You never quite know what to expect, and I think sometimes when you have a match of this magnitude right after the international break, it lets you down. And I think players coming back from worldwide travel is also very important to recognise which 11 you go with. I don't think City can really rotate too much because they've got so many injuries to deal with. United have a host of players that they can actually put out there now, which is good because it looks like a relatively fit squad outside of a few. But I do think that it's still a derby game, right? And let's not forget that this is a massive game for both clubs. They both need to get back to winning ways in some way, and derby games can influence the rest of your season. I think for City in particular, if they're going to challenge for the title, these are the games they've got to win. Didn't work out great against Manchester United last season. They were very poor against United in the derby last season, but they were poor overall. I think we can agree last season. And I do think that for United, it's massive just to simply get a result, a positive result. If they get a victory, they're trending in the right direction again. So room for improvement from both sides. But I think after the international break, draw seems favourable to both sides, but I think both teams are going out for the win.
They certainly are. Trending in the wrong direction, you could say, for Manchester City, certainly over the last season and a bit. And I think we both expected them to really hit the ground running this season and prove some of the doubters wrong for what happened last season. But they haven't really done that so far. And we talk, don't we, often about clubs and managers and players. It's a life cycle of up and down. Do you feel like we're sort of getting towards the end of the cycle for Pep Guardiola at City?
I'd love to think that we're getting closer to the end and hoping that Manchester City can challenge at the top of the table again. I don't think it will necessarily be the case. I think we got maybe a little too carried away after that performance against Wolves and then all of a sudden realised it was against Wolves. And then they got spanked at home against Spurs. I think realisation kicked in pretty quickly in that last game against Brighton, which was quite the surprise to them and a shock to their system. Especially when you're leading the game, you've got to try and win those games. And normally Manchester City see those games out. So desperately disappointing where they are right now in the Premier League standings. But I do think that when you've got Pep Guardiola at the sidelines and you've got some new players introduced to your squad, you still have this fresh feel about it. And I'm looking at what's projected to be that starting 11 going in, and it's not easy to project exactly who's going to play because of the injuries that they're dealing with. But I got a feeling that one player in particular who's not been playing well, Phil Foden, will probably get his opportunity from the start in this game alongside Haaland, who's just come off an absolute banger of an international break where he bagged 5 goals and 2 assists in one single game. Rodri back is not the Rodri from previous. He's going to take some time to get back to being that player that we all love, and obviously Manchester City fans got the statistics behind him by winning every game that he played in, at least when he started. Defensively with Donnarumma in between the sticks is probably the biggest talking point, because now we're going into a derby not only knowing or hoping that you can actually win the game, you're now hoping that you're not conceding and that your goalkeeper settle in for both teams. It's not just City who have got a new goalkeeper.
But what about Pep? Obviously, he's got a lot of rope at the club, given his success over so many years, what he's achieved, the connection that he's got with the fans. But eventually that rope is going to run out. How long do you think they'll give him before, or is it just completely on his terms? When he wants to go, he'll go. Surely at some point they're going to say, well, we've got all these players, we're spending all this money, we've got to do better than this.
Listen, I've been fortunate enough to be a part and working around City Football Group for about 8 or 9 years of my life, and understanding that winning mentality and the culture that they grow and have around there. It is obviously about winning, but it's a professional understanding. They treat everyone so respectfully, it's unbelievable. They have so much love for Pep Guardiola and what he's done for that football club, what he's done for Manchester City as a business, what he's done for City Football Group as a business. Because of Manchester City's success, City Football Group have then been able to build their fortress of clubs around the world and financially absolutely dominate, but also create opportunity for young players to go to City Football Group and grow the next generation of talented players within their system. And it's in large part down to what Pep Guardiola did with Manchester City. So I'm saying and leaning on the lines of they'll be patient with him and they'll give him enough time. It will never be a Pep's out, he's fired, results are not good. I don't ever foresee something like that. They've got far too much respect in how they deal with someone like Pep Guardiola. I think it would be more Pep Guardiola deciding that he can't offer anything more to Manchester City. But he clearly does feel like he can, Adam. That's why he stayed there. That's why he signed a new contract. That's why they're spending as much money. Pep believes that he can get City back to the top of the Premier League, and I think he believes he can get them there this year. A
lot of United fans, certainly the ones I spoke to, did feel like this summer, the money spent, the fact that Amorim have had a bit of time, was going to be, you know, finally the turning point. And it hasn't really looked like that at the start of the season. I know we're only 3 games in. When do you think the patience will begin to wear thin with this man? Because he's had an opportunity to spend lots of money, bring in the players he's wanted, but they're not really doing what you would expect from a team with this kind of quality on the pitch.
No, I think people are already wearing thin with him right now. And of course, what you've already seen earlier on in our show, it's obviously a natural instinctive reaction for fans to be upset about results. And obviously, with a history of winning, it's very difficult for anyone to replace a genius. And they've gone through manager after manager after manager trying to find that genius who's going to have success similar to Sir Alex. It's not there. I like Amorim. I think he's a very good coach. Stats simply are a little bit different from results sometimes. Let's take the last 10 Premier League games for Manchester United. Now, I understand they're not scoring goals. They're currently sitting in a poor position. They're 17th in the Premier League for goals scored over the last 10 Premier League games. But they are first when it comes to shots taken, which tells me they're going in the right direction. Now, defensively, people will criticise United are conceding goals in big games when they need to get results. Take Arsenal, for example. United right now are second in shots faced. So I know results are not quite there, but when Amorim is actually breaking down, we're getting closer, it's looking better, I'm getting that feeling. These statistics that I'm reading out to you right now are telling me he's not far away from having the team that he wants. All they've got to do now is score more goals. All they've got to do now is stop making mistakes defensively, and you'll have yourself an opportunity. The squad's good enough, Adam. It's really good. It's talented. I know they've had a goalkeeping issue, but it's a talented squad. They'll do some damage, and I'll be very surprised if they're not in a European place at the end of this season.
All eyes on the Etihad for the Manchester derby on Sunday. It's going to be a thriller. Score prediction, Ian, really quickly?
2-2.